Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. President Biden visiting Louisiana today to survey the damage and meet with state and local officials. And we hear from some New Orleans residents. Dozens of people lost their lives due to Hurricane Ida across the United States this week. The storm hit the Northeast unexpectedly hard. We hear personal stories from locals. A British-born ISIS member pleading guilty in federal court. He's accused of beheading American hostages and other horrific acts of violence. The governor of South Dakota ordering a review of abortion laws to make sure her state has the strongest pro-life laws they can. And we bring you some abortion crossfire from the White House press briefing. President Biden is expected to visit Louisiana today, days after Hurricane Ida battered the state. A press release says he'll survey the damage from the hurricane. NTD's Jessica Beatty has more.
President Biden planning on visiting Louisiana Friday and meeting with state and local leaders. He'll also tour a neighborhood in Laplace and get an aerial view of hard-hit communities.
Governor Edwards encouraged me to come and assured me that my visit will not disrupt recovery efforts on the ground. That's what I wanted to be sure of.
Biden's pledging federal support to the victims of Hurricane Ida. He also said more than 6,000 National Guardsmen have been deployed to the area.
And I made clear to the governors that my team at the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, is on the ground and ready to provide all the assistance that's needed.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says FEMA has awarded more than $77 million to help disaster survivors.
Roughly 50,000 households in Louisiana have already received a one-time payment of $500 from FEMA to support critical needs.
As of Thursday, more than 800,000 people were still without power, many relying on gas-powered generators. And residents of New Orleans facing long lines at gas stations.
We waited at the gas station since about 3 o'clock this morning on General Myers, and it didn't open up. So we came over here about an hour ago, and this one is moving a lot better.
According to Gas Buddy, as of Thursday afternoon, about 2/3 of gas stations in Baton Rouge and New Orleans were without fuel. And long lines at grocery stores, too. Shantez Williams walks about a quarter mile to buy groceries every day. His family is still without electricity.
It's something simple to eat real quick. That won't go bad. Got to eat it today. It'll be bad tomorrow.
Laureen Alphonse says she has a lot of questions for FEMA, but hasn't seen the federal agency in her neighborhood yet.
When I'm going to get my relief, because all my food done spoiled and everything in my refrigerator.
Utility company Entergy says it could take weeks to restore power to the hardest hit areas. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
The Biden administration is tapping the nation's strategic petroleum reserve in response to the damage caused by Hurricane Ida. That will release 1.5 million barrels of crude oil to help meet demand. The decision comes as 2/3 of the service stations in New Orleans and Baton Rouge are out of gasoline in the hurricane's aftermath. At the same time, regulators say more than 93% of the Gulf of Mexico's oil production remains offline as of Thursday. The Department of Energy says adding to the crisis is the fact that the Mississippi River has been closed due to several sunken vessels. To get tanker trucks rolling, the Biden administration is relaxing standards, enabling truck drivers to legally work longer hours. New footage of Ida's impact on the Northeast is emerging. Residents and survivors share their experiences as the storm swept through the region. NTD's Arian Pastar has more.
The remnants of Hurricane Ida devastated states across the Northeast. At least 45 people died up here. That's 5 times more than in the South, where Ida made landfall on Sunday. Now the problem up here was that many people, including officials, just didn't see it coming. The NYPD has made almost 70 water rescues and over 160 non-water rescues, while more than 800 passengers had to be saved from the city's flooded subway system. 20 of the 70 water rescues happened in Queens, with most of them at the ongoing US Open tennis tournament. The NYPD also found nearly 500 vehicles abandoned across the city. Most of those who died in Queens drowned in their basement apartments. One resident told a harrowing story of survival.
The problem is this problem. The water comes from this hole. The water goes to my leg. So my neighbor in the second floor, he hold my hand, and then I hold my wife's hand and my dad's hand so we can get out from the basement.
A number of people also passed away across the Hudson River. Similar to the tragic cases in Queens, they also got trapped and drowned.
At least 23 New Jerseyans have lost their life to this storm. The majority of these deaths were individuals who got caught in their vehicles by flooding and were overtaken by the water.
High winds completely destroyed the home of a New Jersey couple with 2 young kids.
We always joke that this is a wind tunnel, it's a wind tunnel, and it really proved itself to be that way last night.
And in a Philadelphia suburb, rescue workers had to ferry stranded people to safety.
I have a son who relies upon life-saving medication and was not with us in the hotel, and last night the firefighters put heroic efforts in with a line across raging water, and hand over hand got it to us last night, and we were incredibly grateful.
After raging through the US and devastating areas from the south up to the northeast, Ida seems to finally be a thing of the past as it's weakened to below warning levels. Arian Pastar, NTD News, New York.
It looks like Democrats no longer have the votes they need to pass a $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill this month. They had hoped to get it through the Senate using reconciliation. That would require every Democrat to support it. Now, moderate Senator Joe Manchin says he is not ready for that vote just yet.
I would ask my colleagues and all of the Senate to hit the pause button on the 3.5. Hit the pause button. Let's sit back. Let's see what happens. Well, we've got 4 or 5 different scenarios can happen to us in our economy and our country. So don't you think before we put ourselves in another bind or make a commitment or divide our country further, that we should maybe hit the pause button and say, let's look at this a little bit differently.
Manchin says he is skeptical of the price tag and the time frame. The legislation would implement much of President Joe Biden's agenda. We hear reactions from Texas stakeholders on the new law that allows private citizens to sue abortion providers. This, while South Dakota's Governor Kristi Noem is ordering a review of abortion laws in her state to see whether those laws can be tightened. The Texas law bans abortions for women who are 6 weeks or more pregnant. And while President Biden and top Democrats are trying to counter the move with little options, legislative associates in Texas are cheering it on.
The Texas Right to Life, we are thrilled. We are celebrating this historic day for the pro-life movement. This is the first heartbeat law that's actually been able to be enforced in the United States. And so we're really excited about that and excited about the thousands of preborn lives that are going to be saved as a result of this law.
The law lets private citizens sue Texas abortion providers who go against the law, and anyone who wins in court can get about $10,000. Yet a senior director of clinical services calls this a bounty.
The state has placed a bounty, a $10,000 bounty on our head. They've now allowed the everyday citizens, specifically the very people who stand on the sidewalk and harass myself and my staff and my providers, most times by name on a day-to-day basis, now have the authority and have been basically deputized to bring lawsuits against us if they feel that we've aided or abetted a woman in having an abortion past the time of fetal hormones.
The Supreme Court is leaving the Texas law in place in a close 5-4 ruling after it went into effect on Wednesday. The law has led to Kansas abortion clinics expecting more patients. That's not just Texans, but people from other states who would have gone to Texas for an abortion. What's more, South Dakota's Governor Kristi Noem wants to make sure she has the strongest pro-life laws on the books in her state. Currently in South Dakota, abortions are allowed 12 weeks or earlier into the pregnancy. Meanwhile, in the White House press briefing on Thursday, a reporter pressed Jen Psaki on Biden's stance on abortions.
Why does the president support abortion when his own Catholic faith teaches abortion is morally wrong?
Well, he believes that it's a woman's right, it's a woman's body, and it's her choice.
Why does the president, who does he believe then should look out for the unborn child?
He believes that it's up to a woman to make those decisions and up to a woman to make those decisions with her doctor. I know you've never faced those choices, nor have you ever been pregnant, but for women out there who have faced those choices, this is an incredibly difficult thing.
Pro-life women have criticized Psaki's remarks, even calling them sexist towards the male reporter. Kristen Hawkins, who is the Students for Life of America president, told Fox News, "It's Joe Biden who uses his Catholicism as a talking point, and as a woman who has been pregnant and a proud Catholic, I would like the president to address how he can actively undermine the church's teachings on the value of preborn life." Some in the pro-choice camp who align with modern feminism say abortion is key to self-directed freedom. And pro-lifers agree that women have the right to manage their own health, but they say that right does not allow the mother to destroy her child's body, that her child also inherently has a right to life. A British-born ISIS terrorist accused of beheading American hostages is pleading guilty. He has 8 U.S. criminal charges against him, including lethal hostage-taking and conspiracy to support terrorists. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
London-born Alexander Coty was held in Iraq by the U.S. military before being flown to the United States to face terrorism charges. Appearing before U.S. District Judge T.S. Ellis at a hearing in Alexandria, Virginia, Coty pleaded guilty on Thursday to the murders of U.S. journalists James Foley and Stephen Sotloff, and aid workers Kayla Mueller and Peter Kassig.
He has agreed to spend the rest of his life in prison.
The charges carried potential death sentences, but U.S. authorities have advised British officials that American prosecutors will not seek the death penalty against Coty. Acting U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Raj Parekh, spoke after the hearing.
Contrary to the propaganda perpetuated by ISIS, we have given Alexander Coty the opportunity to face justice. Coty has been afforded due process.
The mother of James Foley also spoke, urging President Biden and Congress to do all they can for other U.S. citizens held hostage or wrongfully detained abroad.
Our U.S. citizenship should mean that our country will do their very best to shrewdly negotiate for, rescue, and recover our U.S. nationals whenever they are in danger abroad.
Coty was a citizen of the UK, but the British government rescinded his citizenship. He was part of a 4-member Islamic State cell nicknamed the Beatles because of their British accents. The cell is accused of producing graphic Islamic State videos posted online showing beheadings of foreign hostages. Coty is accused of violent acts against the hostages, including using a taser to electrocute the captives, forcing hostages to fight each other, beating them with sticks, and waterboarding. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
New Zealand is in mourning after a man inspired by ISIS carried out a terrorist attack at a supermarket there. He stabbed 6 people before being shot and killed by police.
What happened today was despicable. It was hateful. It was wrong. It was carried out by an individual, not a faith, not a culture, not an ethnicity, but an individual person who was gripped by ideology that is not supported here by anyone or any community. He alone carries the responsibility for these acts. Let that be where the judgment falls.
The attack took place in the afternoon at a supermarket in a suburb of major city Auckland. New Zealand's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, says it was carried out by a Sri Lankan national who was a known threat. Ardern said the man was under constant monitoring, and it was the surveillance team that shot him within about 60 seconds of the attack starting. The local police commissioner says the man grabbed a knife from within the store, and 2 officers shot him when he approached them with the knife. The commissioner says he realizes the situation raises questions about whether police could have acted quicker. 3 victims are in the hospital in critical condition. Another victim is in serious condition, and 2 more are in moderate condition. America's longest war is over, and the man tasked with ensuring those final few flights out of Kabul is now on safe ground. We now hear from the mission commander about his experience.
The approach into and out of Kabul allowed little margin for error. Mountains surround Hamid Karzai International Airport, and the valley is prone to bad weather. Thousands of Afghans on the field, and thousands more desperately trying to get in. Nearby, a terror threat from ISIS-K. In this environment, Lieutenant Colonel Alex Pelbath had a mission: the end of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Instead of focusing on the danger, what all the operators do is you focus on the mission you got at hand. So you focus on your individual tasks, you focus on success, and you focus on doing your part of the mission as well as you possibly can.
Pelbath was the mission commander of the final 5 flights out of Kabul. He snapped this picture of another C-17 taking on Afghan evacuees. In the background, the cars and baggage in hangars about to be left behind.
I graduated the Air Force Academy in 2001, and a couple months later, September 11th happened. So my entire career has been spent with a conflict in Afghanistan, and to see it come to an end, that does make a mark, I think.
Pelbath knew time was precious. Every second on the tarmac was added risk, and with the final troops loading up, the danger was at its peak. Major General Chris Donahue, the commander of the 82nd Airborne, was the last soldier to step off Afghan soil, the military says. Pelbath later snapped this cell phone picture of his own flight. Then Pelbath gave the order, clamshell, close the cargo doors. Minutes later, flush the force, the order to take off.
I was able to see in front of me, the first aircraft had just made their left turn, the second aircraft right behind them, the third aircraft had just lifted off, the fourth aircraft on the runway. I had the entire picture of the C-17 force in front of me. For sure, an image that I will never forget.
The 5 C-17s had been on the ground a total of 3 hours, he says. The end of a 20-year war was his final flight.
An international effort is underway to evacuate the Afghan women's soccer team. These young girls had to flee for their lives simply for playing a sport they love. Here's more.
I've been competing on the Afghanistan women's national team for the last 6 years, and I'm currently the captain of the national team residing in Canada.
The international community is working to rescue members and families of the Afghan women's soccer team. The effort is known as Operation Soccer Balls.
A week and a half ago, the Afghanistan Football Federation had contacted me and requested my help in getting my teammates out of the country, as their lives are definitely in imminent danger.
The Taliban has banned women and girls from playing sports, so these female athletes were moved around for their safety in a bid to escape the Taliban.
They're as young as 14. They should not have to think about, are they going to wake up to the door knock of the Taliban? Are they going to have to run away from door to door to just find a place for refuge? These are young girls. They should be given the same opportunity and chance as other people.
Julie Foudy is the former captain of the U.S. women's national soccer team. The two-time World Cup champion and Olympic gold medalist says the rescue efforts mean a lot to the girls in danger.
Because it raises the visibility of these young women and their importance to equality and democracy and all these things that we value in this country. And so I do think it's important, all these small actions.
At least 5 attempts to rescue the girls have failed, following a suicide bombing at Kabul airport last week. But the majority of the Afghan women's team have been rescued to Australia.
The European Union and Astrzeneca have agreed to settle a legal dispute over the supply of COVID-19 vaccines. The bloc and the pharmaceutical giant reached the agreement on Friday. The original complaint stated that Astrzeneca had only delivered 1/3 of the doses they agreed to. But the new settlement finalized a new delivery schedule. The European Health Commissioner said today that the EU has reached a milestone of 70% full vaccination, but that the continued availability of vaccines, including AstraZeneca's, remains crucial. Better weather is helping the battle against the huge Caldor fire threatening communities around Lake Tahoe in California, but fire commanders warned firefighters to be prepared for ongoing dangers.
Well, we've got about 4,000 personnel on this incident right now. We've got engines in place where they need to be in place. We're setting up and bolstering those containment lines. We're in a good place right now for where we are, and we're working day and night to protect those homes, to bolster our containment lines, to do everything we can to save savable property.
Mission today is just to, again, build cold black depth along all of our hand line in mopping up, patrolling, putting out any hot spots, and making sure that everything is controlled in this area.
Strong winds and dry conditions have spared, for the time being, the largest city around Lake Tahoe, even after thousands were forced to evacuate earlier in the week. But the danger is not over. Wind gusts could blow the fire back towards the city, and the forest is still extremely dry. About 15 million people visit Lake Tahoe every year for hiking, snowboarding, water sports, and gambling. The possibility that wildfires might destroy the international destination is alarming to past visitors. The blaze spans more than 200,000 acres and is 27% contained. It's traveling near the California-Nevada state line. The Florida governor is trying to appeal a ruling that surpassed his authority when he banned school boards from imposing mask mandates. A judge ruled the state could not sanction local school boards that make masks a requirement on school property. But Governor Ron DeSantis' appeal essentially pauses the judge's decision. On Monday, Florida's health department announced it is withholding funds from 2 school districts that defied orders to ban mask mandates. Florida is one of several states where Republican governors have worked to prevent local governments and school districts from mandating masks. These governors say mask mandates infringe on personal liberty. Supporters of mask mandates say the rules are necessary to lessen the spread of the CCP virus. Parents in Sacramento, California are demanding a criminal investigation into a local school teacher and accountability from the school district. This is after the teacher was caught on camera discussing how he tries to radicalize his students into believing Marxist ideas. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
This is ridiculous.
Dozens of outraged parents flooded Natomas Unified School District's school board meeting Wednesday night, demanding action over a teacher who was caught on camera admitting he has the anarcho-communist group Antifa's flag in his classroom and tries to radicalize students into supporting Marxist ideas. The video was released by undercover journalism nonprofit Project Veritas earlier this week.
I have 180 days to turn them into revolutionaries. How do you do that? How do you scare them?
He said he also gives students extra credit for attending Antifa or other far-left events. Earlier on Wednesday, the district said Inderkum High School teacher Gabriel Geip had been placed on paid leave for violating school policies and said they're taking the legally required next steps to fire him. But for many parents and local residents, this is not enough.
This is bigger than one teacher. This does not begin and end with him. He was enabled for years. Complaints were filed and nothing was done. And people bear responsibility for that.
There were so many red flags. The man had an Antifa flag behind his desk. He had Chairman Mao in the corner. Are you kidding me?
He was indoctrinating these kids every single day. Where the hell was the principal? Where were the vice principals? Where was the other faculty at this school? The reporter asked, how do you get the students to do this? He said, and I'm quoting, I scare the out of them. Okay? That is child abuse. And this, not only is his termination need to be taken effective immediately, but I believe a criminal investigation needs to happen immediately.
This man being fired is not everything that we want. We need our rights back as parents. That's the beginning. And we need to know what you're going to do to protect our rights and our children in the future. Thank you.
One resident said parents also share some of the responsibility.
I also want to turn this around and get a little people mad at me. It is your guys' fault, but it's also the parents' fault. When Common Core came out, we let you slide. When all this sexual ed came out, we let you slide. I don't think there's time for any more.
In the Wednesday statement, the district said Geip had purchased rubber stamps depicting Marxist figures such as Joseph Stalin, Fidel Castro, Mao Zedong, and Kim Jong-un with insensitive phrases. These photos were obtained by journalist Andy No. The district said it found Geip had used the stamps to mark student work on at least 13 different days. The board meeting was ended in the middle of public comment. A lawyer representing the district says this was due to lack of decorum and says it will be rescheduled. Parents say this won't be the last time the school board hears from them.
The parents in this area are awake. We're going to be at all the meetings.
They're calling for an independent investigation into the school and 3 other teachers who Geip said share his ideology. The parents say they'll keep showing up until the investigation happens. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
Up next, Cape Cod's reputation for great white sharks attracts tourists looking to see the animal in the wild, despite fears in the industry that the predator could deter visitors. And NASA tests a new project that could revamp your morning commute. It's called an air taxi and could one day help people soar high above rush hour traffic. All that and more here on NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Cape Cod is slowly starting to embrace shark tourism, and business is doing well despite fears about recent shark sightings that may deter some visitors. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Michael Simbert crouches on the bow of a shark sighting boat. His partner, Penny Antonoglu, stands beside him as a great white shark glides through the water below. The 2-hour shark eco tour was the highlight of their week-long summer vacation on Cape Cod.
It was incredible. To be able to look into the water that clear and see I didn't realize how graceful they were, really. Just cruising along at their own pace, and they're quite beautiful.
Mike Bosley, owner of Dragonfly Sport Fishing Charters, led their tour. Bosley used to take researchers out to sea to tag great whites. He uses the same methods that shark researchers use to find the predators.
Shark trips are a very complex operation. It involves a spotter pilot and a private aircraft that's in touch with us via VHF radio for the entire time that we're out there. We generally are able to see sharks on every trip.
Some conservationists say shark watching tours could prove beneficial, as long as they continue to be done responsibly. And there are currently no licensing or registration requirements for the tours.
When we started to see white sharks become more prevalent several years ago, there was a concern that it might have a negative impact on tourism. But we've been working to educate people about sharks and having them be shark smart. And what we've actually seen is there's been no negative impact to the number of tourists coming to the Cape because of the sharks.
Cape Cod has been slow to embrace its reputation for great whites. 3 summers ago, the popular vacation destination saw its first attack in years. Dozens of beaches have temporarily closed in recent weeks, after sharks were spotted as close as 30 feet from some of the Cape's most famous beaches. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
If you think ride-sharing is innovative, how about an air taxi? The folks at NASA think those could be a transportation option in the future. They're trying out the technology now with Joby Aviation. That company makes this all-electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. NASA is testing its performance and acoustics. Someday, you might be able to take one of these between cities. Talk about a commute that'll fly by. If you go to McDonald's frequently, you might be familiar with the disappointment of a broken ice cream machine. But the FTC might help you get your McFlurry soon. Here's NTD's Evelyn Lee with more.
Is the McFlurry machine at your local McDonald's broken again? Not to worry, the FTC is on it now. It's not rare that milkshakes, soft cones, or McFlurries aren't available. One customer even started to question whether her local McDonald's even has a machine. And McBroken.com, an online tracker, helps customers keep track of all the machine outages across the world. Franchise owners are also complaining that the devices are too complicated and the breakdowns hard to fix. The machine reportedly makes menu items that account for about 60% of McDonald's dessert sales in the U.S. Now the FTC has reached out to franchisees. It will mostly investigate repair restrictions. It wants to know how often restaurant owners are allowed to work on their machines and how McDonald's reviews suppliers. The Biden administration is scrutinizing a variety of products now on whether manufacturers let owners fix those products themselves. The main manufacturer of the ice cream machine says it doesn't impede its customers. It says owners can repair their equipment, but the warranty isn't valid if they do. McDonald's says it's working on solutions now. That could include training for crew members and regular maintenance checkups. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
Still to come, Yoshihide Suga will step down as Japan's prime minister after only 1 year in the position. His approval ratings dropped due to his handling of the CCP virus pandemic. And South Korea now requiring surveillance cameras in all hospital operating rooms after a series of medical accidents. Stay tuned to find out more. We have an update on Japan. The country's prime minister has announced he's stepping down. This is raising concerns over political instability surrounding one of the U.S.'s most important allies. Here's more.
Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga announced Friday he does not intend to run for re-election, setting the stage for his replacement after just 1 year in office. Hopes were initially high for Suga, who took over after Shinzo Abe resigned last September due to health problems. Since then, Suga's handling of the global health crisis and a rocky vaccination rollout pulled his approval ratings down below 30%. Suga said Friday he hoped to focus on battling the pandemic instead.
While I had the schedule to run in the election, thinking about COVID measures and election activities needed an enormous amount of energy. In that situation, I could not do both. I needed to choose one.
Suga's comments cap off a roller coaster week in which he pulled out all the stops to save his job. Ruling Liberal Democratic Party officials said Suga will finish his term as its president until his successor is chosen in a party-wide election slated for September 29th. The winner of the contest is all but assured of becoming premier because of the LDP's majority in the lower house. The government has been considering holding the general election on October 17th.
An old man in China was pinned to the ground by policemen, all because he refused to get tested for the CCP virus. Meanwhile, the strict lockdown measures in China played a critical role in the death of another man. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more on the story.
Authorities in China are reportedly not taking no for an answer. That's when they want someone to get tested for the CCP virus. A video published online in recent weeks captured one of the extreme strategies. A clip shows an older man in South China inside his home. Police and medical personnel entered the room and held the man down on the ground. While he was pinned there, medical staff swabbed his cheek. That sample will likely be used for virus testing. A Chinese internet user claims his neighbor died because he couldn't get timely medical assistance due to lockdown measures. In a social media post, the internet user wrote the neighbor tried to call the hotline for an ambulance, but was told the hospitals nearby are closed during the pandemic and that no ambulance is available. The internet user adds that 2 police officers were nearby but refused to help. Later, another neighbor took the patient in his car and went out to look for medical help. After they left, the 2 officers came by to check on them and asked who allowed them to leave. NTD cannot independently verify the authenticity of this post. Judging from the locations mentioned in the comments, the user is from Yangzhou. That city is in southeast China and has been a virus hotspot. Authorities there have been imposing strict lockdown measures since early August. That includes forbidding residents in certain high-risk areas from leaving their homes. And if a resident in those areas needs to go out to get groceries, they have to have several things: a permission slip, a health code, a negative test, and a temperature check. And every such household can only send one person out to buy groceries every 3 to 5 days. Several days ago, local authorities loosened up the rules, and residents in designated areas are now allowed to leave their homes, but they still cannot leave their residential compound. Imagine a scenario where if a ship wanted to sail through the international waters of the South China Sea, they'd have to ask for Communist China's permission first. Beijing just turned that scenario into a reality. A new Chinese maritime law that went into effect on Wednesday orders nearly all foreign vessels to apply for a permit before entering Chinese territorial waters. If Beijing deems that a foreign vessel is a threat, the Chinese law gives themselves the authority to exercise hot pursuit on that vessel. It means pursuing a vessel into the high seas and getting it back for trial. But China claims 90% of the South China Sea as its own. That's despite an international tribunal's 2016 ruling that those claims have no merit. The U.S. Department of Defense rejects the new law. Pentagon spokesman John Supple says the United States remains firm that any coastal state law or regulation must not infringe upon navigation and overflight rights enjoyed by all nations under international law. Unlawful and sweeping maritime claims, including in the South China Sea, pose a serious threat to the freedom of the seas.
South Korea is now requiring hospitals to have surveillance cameras in operating rooms after a series of medical accidents involving unqualified staff who stood in for surgeons. Opponents say the law will undermine trust in doctors, but cameras could also help hold surgeons accountable. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
The bill was approved by Parliament, making South Korea the first developed country to require closed-circuit cameras to record surgical procedures. The push for having cameras in operating rooms intensified after a case in 2016. Surgeons at private clinics were accused of assigning nurses or underqualified doctors to perform procedures, sometimes with fatal results. Plastic surgeon Kim Sung-won thinks the cameras are a good move.
의사로서 지금 현재 한국에서는
As a doctor, I think it is time that South Korea needs CCTV in the operating room. I believe that CCTV in an operating room can prevent crimes such as ghost surgery, unauthorized organ harvesting, sexual assault, and quite a few medical accidents in absurd situations.
또 상당히 많이 막을 수 있다. 저는 그렇게 생각하고.
Kwon Dae-hee was a university junior when he died from a hemorrhage in October 2016. After 49 days in a coma following jaw surgery in Seoul. His mother, Lee Na-gum, was able to obtain CCTV footage of her son's surgery, but she said there are hundreds of parents that will never get closure.
수술실에서 멀쩡한 사람이
There's so many unfortunate bereaved families who cannot reveal the truth because they don't have physical evidence when a healthy person dies in the operating room. I hope that the truth can be revealed to bereaved families through CCTV footage, and there will be no more wrongful deaths.
The bill was met with objections from doctors, hospitals, and medical groups. The 140,000-member Korean Medical Association claims video monitoring will discourage medical students from becoming surgeons.
Residents have already expressed their intent not to apply to surgery or surgical departments if the CCTVs are installed in operating rooms, which will lead to a collapse of an essential part of South Korea's medical care.
The association argues the bill will also undermine trust in doctors, violate patient privacy, and discourage doctors from taking risks to save lives. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up, NTD is holding its 9th International Classical Chinese Dance Competition. It showcases various characters through this expressive art form. And a rare opportunity to learn about the behind-the-scenes stories of your favorite Disney movies. Artwork borrowed from Disney's archives are now on display for the first time in Milan. Find out more in just a minute.
%90 of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3. Eat 2 a day and you'll feel brand new.
On Thursday, NTD held the preliminaries of its 9th International Classical Chinese Dance Competition. 109 contestants from North America and Asia participated in it, which took place in New York State. Let's take a look at their performances.
A joyful waiter, an ancient emperor, and a heavenly maiden. Contestants of NTD's 9th International Classical Chinese Dance Competition showcased various characters through this expressive art form. The competition aims to promote the traditional art of classical Chinese dance. In China, traditional Chinese culture has been all but destroyed by the Chinese Communist Party over the past several decades. Now these artists hope to bring back the 5,000 years of traditions. Vicky Zhao from New York says that to better portray the character, she has to learn the history.
I think I've learned a lot from the process of preparing my dance, and I need to think about the history of the character. So, for example, I performed Ban Zhao. She's a historian back in Han Dynasty, and so she lost her brother and her father, so she needs to take the responsibility to continue writing history.
Tanya Wang started dancing when she was 4. This time, she portrayed the Chinese goddess of the moon, Chang'e.
She is a heavenly figure and a very beautiful lady. To portray this character, I not only have to show her beauty, but also bring out the sense of divine inspiration, which is more difficult to perform. I tried to read ancient books, and then from there to complete the understanding of the character of Chang'e.
Bo Yan Xie from Taiwan says through dance, he gets a more profound resonance with the culture.
Chinese classical dance, the inner meaning it brings to me, the impact it has on my heart, the impact of that culture is what I truly want.
The judging criteria will focus on bearing, form, and techniques that are characteristic of classical Chinese dance. NTD will live stream the final round of the competition on September 5th, starting 1 p.m. Eastern Time. There will also be a technical showcase from previous gold winners, and then the awards ceremony. You can watch the live streaming on our TV network and social media platforms.
Do you remember the first Disney animation you ever watched? Maybe Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, or Peter Pan? A new exhibition in Milan is uncovering the secrets behind the famous films. Let's take a look.
An exhibition in Milan called Disney, The Art of Timeless Storytelling, is highlighting Walt Disney classics. It shows how, with help from used talented illustrators, the company retold some of Europe's best-loved fairy tales. Visitors to the exhibit can get to know Hercules' path to becoming a hero, or how the three little pigs defeated the wolf in front of our very eyes.
La mostra è un'esperienza immersiva.
The exhibit is immersive within the myths, the legends, the fables, and the fairy tales. There are 4 sections in which one can see where the stories come from. So you can think about the origins of Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Pinocchio, and you can also see the cinematographic techniques used by Disney.
Neve, di Pinocchio, e insieme si possono, seconda esperienza, ripassare anche un pochino le tecniche cinematografiche di Disney.
The exhibition uses original works from Disney's archives to tell the story behind the movies. For example, visitors can catch a glimpse of the first sketches from Sleeping Beauty.
It's so important, these exhibitions, because it's a moment where we can share this amazing behind-the-scenes artwork from our collection, which in many cases has never been seen before.
The exhibit includes many well-known myths, legends, fables, and fairy tales, but gives special attention to Pinocchio and his Italian origins. The curator says great illustrators, starting at the end of the 1800s, interpreted Pinocchio.
Walt Disney nel 1935 riporta.
In 1935, after a trip in Europe, Walt Disney brings some books back to the studios with Pinocchio illustrations, among which is the Cavalieri illustrated version, father and daughter. And it's quite impressive to see in the exhibit the trails of this Italian connection.
Mostra anche le tracce di questa connessione con l'originale italiano.
The exhibition opened on September 2nd and runs until February 13th next year.
Dementia awaits far too many people, but there are some practical and even pleasing things you can do to save your brain for the years ahead. Let's hear from Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. Dementia is a disease that can eventually cause deterioration of brain function. This includes your ability to form thoughts and recall memories. It can also dramatically alter your normal brain chemistry. The good news is that simple things can help to prevent dementia. Here are some everyday helpful habits that you can integrate into your life. Number 1, monitor your weight. Obesity is a global epidemic, not only in the West but also in many of the world's developing countries as well. Therefore, it's wise to maintain a healthy weight, especially as we enter into the midlife period of our lives. Maintaining a healthy weight, particularly as we age, can help to protect our brains. These body weight factors dovetail into the next healthy habit, nutrition, eating healthily. Everyone's goal should be to control their weight, blood sugar levels, and blood pressure. All of these factors can play crucial roles in protecting our brains and reducing the risk of developing cardiovascular disease. Therefore, food intake, in other words nutrition, is of utmost importance since, as the saying goes, you are what you eat. The Mediterranean diet is one of the healthiest food plans you can follow. In multiple studies, it has been shown to be one of the diets lowest in unhealthy fats and highest in vitamin and mineral content. The Mediterranean diet consists of foods such as lean meats, fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts, olive oil, and fish. Maintain a social life. Group activities or even one-on-one get-togethers can be great for promoting brain health. In contrast, being isolated can lead to depression and can often become a problem with older adults as their cognitive abilities decline over the years. Aside from motivating each other to exercise, friends and positive social contact can boost your brain health. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention warns that social isolation, in other words loneliness, is associated with about a 50% increased risk of dementia. So, what are you waiting for? Get out there and form or join a social network of friends, even if it's initially through a video chat app. Engage strangers. When people are in close proximity to strangers while out in public, they have a natural propensity to be quiet and keep to themselves. But according to psychologist Gillian Sandstorm, reaching out and talking to strangers can strengthen our mental health and enrich our lives. When sitting next to folks on trains, buses or planes, or walking through parks or stores, many of us overestimate the difficulty or danger of connecting with strangers and underestimates the payoffs in doing so. Engaging in conversation, even if it's small talk, can greatly enhance our temperaments and brighten our moods, among many other benefits. All of those factors can help to reduce the chances of developing dementia.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to catch all of our programs on TV. NTD Evening News is on every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Find your local NTD channel at ntd.com.